Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show, and this week we are talking about terminology. What are all those acronyms, things people say that you don't know what they mean? We're going to tell you what they mean. That's what we're talking about. Plus, I'm pretty sure this isn't the definition of an artist.
If you want to be a poet who writes shit poems that no one wants to buy, good. That's good that we have artists.
And we figure out why Sasha shouldn't be recording in the car.
Yeah, 28 minutes. It's getting really hot.
I bet you're hot.
Sweet. There's no way I'm going to be able to unpeel my thighs.
What's going to happen though? You're going to hop out of the car and you're going to have that wet patch on your back from your seats.
I totally am.
Anyway, that's the show. Let's get it. All right, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about all the terminology, all the jargon, all the acronyms, all the things you hear in a meeting and sit there going, I should know what that means, but I don't know what it means, so I'm just going to sit here and say nothing. But Sash, I love Car Sasha, and Sasha is back for her version of car karaoke. How are you?
Doing so well. I'm in Otatahi, Christchurch today in the car, looking like a complete mad person. I actually spoke at an event on yesterday, feels like a lifetime ago, yesterday morning, and it went really well. I was delighted to have been of service to the audience, and the guy who followed up from me is the owner of the business, very successful. He's a gazillionaire, and he said, wow, that's the best speaker we've had this year. Oh, that was amazing. I mean, she's clearly mad. I went, oh, hey, steady on with your diagnosis there, mate. I'm not sure you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but yes, I am a little bit mad, and anyone walking past the car now is going to think that too.
Well, we did have the conversation around should you have the windows down like a puppy dog that you get some air, but you were just like, nah, man, I mean, I have to turn on the car to get the windows down.
Hard. We've got 30 minutes to smash out every acronym we know. Let's go.
All right. So the reason I thought that this would be a really good topic is I remember when we did a massive core systems upgrade a few years ago, and I was put into this project and I just had no idea how IT worked or anything like that. And we used to have to go to these little daily stand-up meetings, and I would sit there and listen to the people talk about what they were going to do, and they were going to interface with this and data integrity that, and all this kind of stuff was going on, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Kind of at the start felt like they may as well be speaking German, and after a couple of months I was like, what do you know? I know a little bit of German. And then I was in a meeting one day and all of a sudden I could speak some of the language, or at least understand some of the things that they were talking about. So we're going to touch base on some of the more common terminologies that you might hear from time to time and give you an idea of what it is. So why don't we start with a really basic one? You often hear the term API. It's like, oh yeah, that's got an API. That's right, we just need to check the API. API, do you know what it stands for?
I mean, yes, I do know what it stands for, but you tell us what it stands for.
Application Programming Interface is basically what it stands for. So the really layman version of this is it allows two software programs to hold hands, transfer information backwards and forwards between them. And there's kind of a couple of different types of APIs. There's APIs that go in and grab information and pull it out and put it somewhere else. Or there's APIs that push information out into whatever software is required.
And in laywoman's terms, that's the difference between a vacuum cleaner and a leaf blower.
Excellent. But yeah, it's always important to know which way the data is flowing, because as cybersecurity becomes more and more of a thing, you want to know what the API is doing. Is it I'm taking information, I'm going into your software program and I'm going to pull that information out? That from a security standpoint may be a problem. If it was built internal, not so much of an issue, one source of information to another. But if it's an external company using an API to extract data, you may want to ask some questions around that.
And some of you I know have already lost the will to live, me too. But here's how it's relevant. So take coffee culture as an example. We have a point of sale, a POS system. POS, POS, point of sale. EFT, POS, electronic funds transfer point of sale. That's what EFTPOS is. So at our POS, any app that we interface with, so our loyalty app or a pre-ordering app, when we go to developers, the developers say, do you have an open API? And it basically means, is the POS system provider willing to let us go in with our vacuum cleaners, or will it leaf blow to us the information that we need? And some companies say it's all open, come and go, that's the brave new world we live in. Other companies go, no, we want to control really tightly who we will or won't play with in a tech space.
That's right. And that probably leads us quite nicely into another term that you sometimes use, where they talk about customization versus configuration within a software program. So you might say, can it do this? And they say, well, it can do anything if you've got the money. It's usually the first thing a software program.
What's your name? What do you want it to be?
But it's important to understand the difference, because configuration is something that is built into the software program. I can choose it to be black, or I can choose it to be white. I can choose to have that information showing, or I can choose to turn it off. It's stuff that's already built in. Customization, where I need it to be able to be green, and that's not how it's built, that's where the expense is.
Let me stop you right there. I need everyone to know that when you were doing customization, you were making those little quote things with your, like rabbit ears with your fingers, like customization. And I suspect there's a lot of this that goes on in meetings where people use these big words, they use hand gestures, but you can still be in the meeting going, I've got no idea what that means.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that you look so cute, honestly. Do it again.
Customization. So if it's configuration, it's out of the box. You can just use it and you can configure.
What does out of the box mean?
Out of the box just means that's the way it's built and everything you need is there. So if you want to be able to access something or turn something on or change a color, out of the box, it's basically built the way it is. The moment you want to customize it to be a different color, to do something, to surface information in a different way, that's where the money comes out. And good luck.
A really good way to remember that is Apple in New Zealand are primarily sold, they used to be primarily sold through these stores that were called something else. I don't even remember now. They've rebranded themselves Oobe, OOBE, and that stands for out of the box experience. Because one of Apple's selling points is we don't have to give you a manual for an iPhone. You just plug it in and start, and it's intuitive and you know what to do. They say that's different from other types of software where you might need to do a whole lot of other customization or configuration once you get it.
Yeah, and that's sometimes where you'll hear the term white label as another piece of terminology. White label means it's a piece of software or it's a program that's been developed and you can just put your business skin on it. So you can make it look like you developed it, but actually it was originally just like a white label. So if you think about that with wine, you can buy clear skin wine, usually quite good quality wine, but it's just basically they've just put like a generic label on it, and because it was an over service of a certain year and they just want to get it out the door, so they kind of white label it or clear skin it. It's the same with software. It's basically a piece of software. You can purchase it and you can make it look like your business developed it.
And lots of websites and kind of technically like that. If you go to Squarespace or WordPress, that's like a white label website where you go and skin it and make it look like your own, and people think you've developed your own website, which you have, but you've done it on their platform.
Yeah. So a term I used to hear sometimes in corporate was B2B and B2C. And I remember at the time thinking I should know what that meant, and I didn't know what it meant. I had to Google it.
Before Christ, after Christ. BC.
Bananas and pajamas, B1, B2. So B2B is business to business. So a corporate dealing with another corporate. Well, there's one business dealing with another business, right?
Yeah. No, you've just described C to C.
Or B2C, which is business to consumer. So I build a product and then I sell it direct to a consumer. That's B2C. If I build a product and sell it to a business first, that's B2B.
And lots of distribution models are business to business models. And then the second business that's been sold to, they become B2C because they're selling to the end user. And really interesting, if you are in the B2B business space, so you're trying to get other businesses to buy your product. So let's say, for example, we roast coffee and we want to send it out to a whole lot of individual households, and we do that through our online website. That's great. We can also just sell coffee to another coffee shop or another cafe, and then they make coffee for consumers. And what companies will sometimes do in that situation is you're trying to drive demand from the bottom up. So even though you're in a business-to-business space, you want consumers to come in and be asking for your particular product because that drives demand for the business that you are selling to.
All right, Sash, CSR, corporate social responsibility.
Oh, big one, right? This is pretty popular right now.
This is the buzz term that is out there. And really what it is stop being an asshole to the planet. It's really...
Be nice to people.
Be nice to people. It's about taking a look at your business and basically doing some self-regulation around your social interactions, your environmental impact, and your ethical policies that you have. So it's looking at your business strategy and go, is what we are doing in line with being great humans and not damaging the planet and being fair and equitable? Now, it's a really important thing to actually take into account, and actually so important now that a lot of companies and bigger businesses are having a CSR person, I've done it again, the air quotes, CSR person in their business who basically is looking at all business practices through that filter. And are we sustainable? Are we having a minimal impact on the world? And are we proactive in the way that we're doing business?
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-minute presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-minute presenter program.
Absolutely. I mean, yes, that's what we're aspiring to, and absolutely that's what it means. Yes, great. What about, I've got one, UTI. Do you know what a UTI is?
Is that some sort of infection in your bladder?
Yes. UTI is a urinary tract infection, and for women, it's like pissing razor blades. And I've got some advice. When you first get a UTI, they used to call it honeymooner's disease because, well, for obvious reasons. You go to the doctor, and quite often the male doctor would say, yes, just drink this sachet and it will help re-regulate things. And I'm like, I don't need your sachet, I need the drugs. And so I think that when men get UTIs, it's great, particularly if those men are doctors, because I reckon once a male doctor has had a UTI, which you imagine it's like pissing razor blades, it's incredibly painful. I think as soon as anyone mentions UTI, they go, here are the drugs, take some drugs, take lots of drugs, take the drugs now, take the painkiller. Is these the kind of things you wanted to share?
Well, I like it. I think we shouldn't get confused between UTI and USB, for example, because you might be wondering, what is that term USB? I mean, everyone knows what a USB is. Like they call it a flash drive or a stick or a thing that you put files on.
Pen drive or a memory drive.
Exactly. Yeah. It actually stands for Universal Serial Bus. And it was actually a way for a lot of different products to agree on one connection and communication and power supply between computers, that kind of thing. So you'll notice now that they've got a new terminology, which is USB-C, which is the new version. And there's been discussions within the IT community or political community, and I'm doing the air things again, around could we just make USB-C the universal plug connection for everything across all devices, so you don't have to buy the one for Apple and the one for Android and then the one for this and that.
One ring to rule them all. I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you know what the C stands for? Like for the USB-C?
I think the A and the B versions didn't work.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's a good one though. Yeah, that's really good. So no. If you do know, let me know.
Yeah, that would be great. What about a UBI? So I know I talked about UTI, but a UBI is a universal basic income. So there's lots of talk about we should just get rid of any kind of social welfare that we have, any kind of payments that we pay to people who are sick or can't work, and everybody should just get from the government a set amount of money every week that's enough to kind of survive on. And then if you want to go and climb mountains, good. Go and climb mountains. That's good for society that there's some explorers. If you want to be a poet who writes shit poems that no one wants to buy, good. That's good that we have artists. And if you want to be someone who starts a business or trains to be in a profession that earns you more money, good. You'll get that on top of your UBI, your universal basic income. And one of the rationales for a UBI is that the cost of administering the dole or the DPB or workers' benefits. DPB is the domestic purposes benefit, and it used to be, I think it's now called the sole parent benefit. The cost of administering all of those is like so cumbersome, it would be cheaper just to give more money away to more people. So that's what UBI is, not to be confused with UTI.
All right, how about EBITDA? EBITDA.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I used to hear this one a lot, and I was like, what the heck? And then they would get into debates. Oh, no, you should be using EBIT. And then someone else go, oh, no, we should definitely be using EBITDA. And I was like, what the hell does it even mean? So what it actually means is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization.
So this is like an accounting term.
It's an accounting term. And really, when people are looking to invest in a company or buy a company, you want to know if it's profitable. And this is one of the ways that you can look at the performance of a company, because you may just go, well, look at its cash flow. Look at all that income coming in. That's amazing. This company is going to make me millions of dollars a year. And then you buy it and you realize that the outgoings are millions of dollars a year. And all of a sudden, there isn't actually any profitability there. So it's a way to just compare businesses, to look at a business as far as its profitability and possibly even its future profitability in the market as well.
What's really useful if you're starting out in your career or your mid-career and you're starting to get exposure to, let's have a look at some of the accounts, let's have a look at the numbers, is to both get a textbook and you can, or watch a YouTube clip, listen to a podcast that explains these things in more detail, but then also contextualize it for yourself. So get an example from real life of, here's a business that has really high cash flow, lots of turnover, but it has low profit margins. So you have to operate that business so well to squeeze a ton of money from the top line to the bottom line. There's other businesses that have relatively low turnover, but they're hugely profitable. It's because they don't have much cost. So you need to have a look and understand all the different ways of assessing whether a business is performing well, and EBITDA is one of the measures that's used.
MVP is another term. We actually used it last week and we were referring to it as most valuable player. However, MVP also stands for minimal viable product. So in a IT sense, they'll often look at a minimal viable product. What's the simplest version of this that we can build that works?
That applies in any kind of startup space. So if you are trying to sell leather jackets, you go, what is the core product that's got enough bells and whistles that people are going to buy it?
Or if we were going to go from point A to point B, we could get there on a skateboard or we could get there in a Ferrari. They're completely different experiences, completely different price points, but they're still going to get you from A to B. So the minimal viable product would be the skateboard. So could you build that, test the market some way by doing that before you start investing heavily in something else that's more high quality? You guys have a CRM, I'm assuming, at Coffee Culture?
Yes.
Yeah, so customer relationship management system, which basically allows you to have a one source of truth for your company where all information is being stored. You may even have automated actions that happen within your CRM. So if someone comes in, it triggers this action, they get this email. That can all be automated within a CRM, but it's a repository of data, of information, and it's often what APIs will interface with. So a common way that we might use that would be in a product like Power BI, which is a reporting product. So it's a way to take information and surface it.
What does the BI stand for?
It's business intelligence. So Power Business Intelligence, it's a reporting interface. So it basically just goes, I'm going to grab all this information using APIs from all of these different places, and I'm going to surface it in meaningful reports. Because often the information that sits in your CRM is good, but unless you can make meaning out of it by interfacing with some sort of reporting platform, it's just information that you store.
You got a whole lot of data, but no insights. And so that's what we're looking for.
Have you got another one, Sash?
Yeah, so here's a legal one for you, NDA. So an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. And so if you're looking at buying a business or looking at a product idea, or perhaps my company wants to collaborate with your company, we'll both sign non-disclosures, which means we're going to show each other some information. And I'll show you mine, you show me yours, and then we both agree that we're not going to tell anybody else. So it's a little bit like a confidentiality agreement. And often when people leave employment with places, they get asked to sign non-disclosures as well. So they can't take information from the company with them.
Yeah. What about views versus impressions, Sash? This is quite a good one to understand, because sometimes marketing people will go, we did this for your business and we got you 2 million impressions. And you go, oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. But that is quite different to views. So let's say you had a video clip and it was an ad, and you put it out into the ethos of the internet through all the social media. What they can start to report on is how many times was it watched. So Sasha clicked on that video and she watched that video, and that becomes a view, as opposed to how many times was it surfaced in Sasha's social media and presented to her as an option to click on. Now that's an impression. So Sasha on her own, because of the way she uses social media, like a diva, could have actually generated 100 impressions just on her own with the way that she was interacting, and then the one click was the view. So just be aware that both of those things are quite different and they have completely different meanings.
Yes, and speaking of the internet, here's a whole bunch of little abbreviations that people use. So let's test your knowledge here, Ish. TLDR.
I do not know what that one means.
Okay, so perfect. TLDR means too long didn't read, or too long don't read.
Yeah.
So often if somebody might send you an article that's really interesting, and at the top of it they'll write TLDR, and then they'll put a summary. So they'll go 2 bullet points. So here's the big long article if you've got time, but if it's like, I ain't got time to read that, too long didn't read or too long don't read, here's the top line highlights of what it is that you've seen. What about AITA?
AITA?
So this is a question that social media users ask themselves. It was particularly popular on Reddit. There's columns dedicated to this. It's, am I the asshole? So when something happens in a person's day, and perhaps they have a falling out with someone, a co-worker or a loved one or an in-law, they write about the situation online, and they always say, I'm 33 and then F in brackets for female. My boyfriend is 18 brackets male. So you get the context for the relationship. There'll be a scenario explained. And then at the end, they say AITA. And then just you crowdsource some wisdom. And some of the situations that people describe are absolute doozies, and the internet goes nuts and says, yes, you're the asshole. And then other times they go, hey, no, you're not. That person is the one that's got the problem. And it's a really nice way just to check in.
So these are like the more intellectual version of LOL, Roffle, laugh out loud, roll on floor laughing, IDK, like all of the little slang. I don't know.
Completely. You know that LOL, laugh out loud, most of our parents think it's lots of love. So they send LOL to us all the time. And we're like, why? Why is that funny?
Well, this is a friend of ours. So when that LOL first came out, obviously being a progressive, early adopter of this type of language, I was emailing Ian Turley.
Oh, no.
And we'll call him Ian Turley because that's his name. And I kept putting LOL, after stuff. And he was like, came back to me one day, goes, stop saying LOL to me. And I went, dude, what do you think it means? He goes, lots of love.
No.
Brilliant.
No.
Good comedy.
We used to work with Ian Turley-ish and I, so yeah, that's a blast from the past. My favourite meme that I've just seen today that kind of plays on this AITA thing is it starts out and this person says, I've lived with this guy now for over 2 years, and I tell him daily that I love him. I do just about everything for him, and he's never said it back, and it's really upsetting to me. I'm a female 31. He's a male age 2. You just go, it's kind of like a riff on that whole thing. Here's another one, FWIW, and that stands for what it's worth. So people in shorthand will go, for what it's worth, here's a bunch of stuff.
Have you ever seen people writing shorthand and then you go to look at it, it's like, what the heck?
Yeah, that's miraculous how people do that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Incredible. We in our office, people are always talking about BAU. Oh yeah, it's just BAU.
Good. This is a good one.
Business as usual, right? Just this is BAU, standard business as usual, what we do around here. I mean, I think what's also interesting is not just these little acronyms and abbreviations, it's actually how business language just gets really fashionable. So we've stopped ringing people and we reach out to them. I reached out to a guy the other day. I'm like, did you just email him? Or did you just call him? Or what? No, I reached out to him. I'm like, don't ever reach out to me. Just tell me what you actually did. And you've been talking today about surfacing things. And now I'm doing these little hand movements while I'm saying surfacing. And that's an example of like bringing to the front or having on display. And there's a whole lot of terminology that kind of catches on. And so a few years ago, people started talking about things resonating. Yeah. And that really resonates with me. And so I love jumping on the terminology that's doing the rounds, but I also like to be aware of it to notice if I'm overusing it or if it's being overused.
Yeah, it's always good to have a few like little sayings in your back pocket if you're in a meeting and you haven't been paying attention, and usually they're talking about spreadsheets or they've been dropping some terminology, and then sometimes they'll look at you and go, hey Ish, so what do you think? And I'll go, look, what I'm interested in is what are the assumptions that underpin the workings that you've come up with, because at the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters. And then I just sit back and let them all argue backwards and forwards.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Sometimes when people say, oh, what do you think? And I've tuned out, I'll say, I'm just not sure we're asking and answering the right question here. I just leave that in the room for people to go, oh, yeah, no, that's good.
Brilliant. All right, here's another little one, affiliate marketing.
Oh, yes. Tell me about that.
So affiliate marketing is where a third party is selling a product on your behalf and taking a commission out of it. So you may have a software service and that you sell direct to a customer, but you also may have a third party that uses your software service and promotes it and sells it, and then they get a commission or a royalty every time they sell one of your products.
It's a little bit like influencers, right? Influencers are often doing affiliate marketing. In fact, if anybody would like to be an influencer for the 30-minute presenter program, we'd love that. We're open to starting an affiliate program. If you want to sell it, by all means, clip the ticket. Reach out. Yeah, reach out to us. Don't email us. Don't call us. Just reach out and we'll surface that idea together.
All right, so the date this week, Sash, while we're recording this, is the 16th of November. And I'm just declaring now, I'm putting up the Christmas tree on Saturday.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm feeling it early this year.
Yes, I used to be 1st of December, not before the 1st of December. And I actually bought a little Christmas tree for our dining room table the other day and didn't have anywhere else to put it. So I put it on the dining room table and I was waiting for Porsche to go, you cannot, we've got rules, Mum. And she came out, she said, oh, Mum, we're going to be really busy this year. Let's just get the tree up next weekend. Yeah. I'm like, yes, let's.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, we've started listening to some Christmas music. We've started watching Christmas movies. We've watched Elf so far, and we've watched Christmas Chronicles. But actually, there's a new series coming out, which is based on the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, but it's a mini-series. So there's some really cool ones. I think there's one called Spirited, and it's got Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. So they're doing a movie together. So there are some really cool movies that are coming out, which is great.
I just bet you so much that your family hasn't watched A Holly Polly Christmas, and that's for the best because it's a fictionary tale. what I will say is, I don't know if I've told you this before, I really try hard not to be superstitious because I think that's nonsense. But every flight I take, I listen to Mariah Carey's Christmas album. Every time, doesn't matter what time of year it is,
Wow.
doesn't matter where I'm going, every single flight. And I'm a woman of science.
Mm-hmm.
I know that correlation is not causation, but so far, none of the flights I've been on where I've listened to the Mariah Carey Christmas album have crashed.
I love it. I love it.
And I just don't want to mess with that logic. So for me, when people are saying, is it Christmas music time? I'm like, for me, Christmas music is in my heart and my ears every week of the year.
I love that.
I can't get enough Christmas.
Yeah, it's definitely not the sort of one where you want to create like another test case where you don't listen to one.
100% right. Why would anyone take that risk?